The Witch and the Beast is a series that I didn't know all that much about before watching it, but it has so far been really good. This series does a lot right, and I will be talking about all of that throughout this video. But before doing that, it would be nice if you guys could leave a like on this video as it helps the channel out a lot, and if you enjoy the video, be sure to subscribe to the channel. My goal for this year is to hit 1,000 subs, and this would really help out. Anyway, let's jump into the video. I love the dark theme of this anime. There's never a bright moment in this anime when you are watching it. Like, there are plenty of scenes that take place during the daytime, but the experience you get when you watch this anime is that of a dark world with a lot of problems that I most certainly would not want to live in. This anime does a really good job at portraying the type of atmosphere that they want you to feel throughout your time watching this anime. There are two things that I find to be really interesting about how they handle certain things in this anime. The first of those things is the witches themselves that this anime derives half of its name from. They are very different from how most series would handle the term witch. This actually makes them super interesting. The witches are powerful immortal beings that each individually have the power to destroy the world if they saw fit. The way they portray witches in this anime is the same way I feel like people in the Middle Ages saw witches. They are this powerful evil force that the common person lives in constant fear of. Witches are often given no mercy whatsoever by the people around them, similarly to how they are treated back in the Middle Ages. This anime does such a good job at writing this specific aspect of its story to make these characters in particular very interesting. The second thing of that list of things I find interesting is how the series handles curses. Similarly to the witches of this anime, curses are very different from how you normally see them in media. The first aspect I find really interesting about them is that they can only be placed upon people by witches. So not just anybody can inflict a curse on somebody. The ways that you get a curse removed are super interesting as well. Normally, in most series, if you have a skilled enough person in curses, you can cancel out a curse. However, in this anime, that is not how it is done. The only way to get rid of a curse is to confront the witch that cursed you. From there, you have your options, but it has to be the very same witch that cursed you to cancel out the curse, otherwise you are stuck with the curse forever. This series does a lot of really interesting things, and these two things are just a part of it, but they are some of my favorite aspects of this anime. One of the coolest things this series does, which is something I didn't expect, was that the main characters aren't going to be the main focus of every arc. In fact, they won't even appear in every arc. I really like this. It makes the cast more diverse, and in the episodic nature of this show, sometimes not focusing on the same two characters for every episode makes this anime more appealing. So far in the anime, we have only had one arc where the main characters don't appear in it, but I'm sure in the original source material there are many more arcs just like it. And honestly, no hate to the main duo, as they have an awesome dynamic that we'll talk about later, but I liked this arc more than the others so far, at least at the time of writing this video. I actually want to talk about this arc since it is a really good arc. I specifically want to talk about the theme of this arc, so this arc focuses on necromancy. We get to learn how necromancy works in the world of the Witch and the Beast, and we get to see it in action. This arc focuses on the importance of letting your loved ones go. The people who often want necromancy performed are people who are struggling and don't want to let the person they loved pass on just yet. But with all the consequences that come with performing necromancy, is it even really worth it? Because you are putting your loved ones through endless torture just so you can spend a few more years with them. And I know how hard it can be to let go and move on, but that is exactly what your loved ones would want. They wouldn't want you to wallow in sorrow and never move on with your life. They would want you to live a cheery and good life pursuing passions and whatever else makes you happy. But bringing them back is not supposed to be an option, and this series makes sure to emphasize that. This arc managed to make a really compelling argument in just 2 episodes, and even though the main duo were a necromancer and a dead person, the theme of this arc still rings strong even by the end. This anime has really good world building. I mean hell, I've been talking non-stop in this video about things that I learned through the world building this series offers. We get to learn so much about the world in this series, as well as the powers, certain people, and as much as they can squeeze in. This series does a really good job at building up the world and letting you ask questions and get them answered. This series doesn't even have to tell you all the time. Sometimes you learn just through watching and paying attention, which I personally like as it doesn't hold your hand through everything. Sometimes you have to figure out the answer yourself by paying attention to the anime. There are some really good action sequences in this anime. Not only are they well choreographed, but they are also well animated. The fighting in each episode is actually some of the highlights of this show, and I don't often say that. However, they have done a really good job at incorporating physical attacks with magic to make for some really interesting strategies and fights. The main two characters work incredibly well together to produce some really nice looking fights and make the whole anime fun. The characters in this anime are awesome, especially the main duo. Guido and Asha's relationship is great. The way they interact in this series makes for some really hilarious moments. You can actually see how close they are to each other, and I really like that. Individually, their characters are pretty cool as well. They each give off a different dynamic that plays into the strengths of this series. Guido is the rough and tough, I'm gonna beat your ass first and ask questions later type. And that works so well as a dichotomy to Asha, who is more calm and collected and really thinks things through and comes up with plans before making a move. Their personalities complement each other quite a bit, and that just makes the series really fun. Fenora and Johan are the main characters of the necromancy arc that I talked about earlier in the video, and honestly, their dynamic is really well done. Just like with Guido and Ashraf, they make for a perfect duo whose personalities really complement each other. Fenora is someone who I would not want to fuck with. She is cold and calculated, and she does not fuck around, which makes her pretty terrifying. But that was the point of her character. Johan is similar to Guido with one exception. He listens when he is told something. To be fair, Fenora literally holds his life in her hands, but still, he doesn't just do his own thing like Guido does and instead knows how to follow a plan. The side cast in this anime has been alright. Honestly, most of them are pretty forgettable, but I guess that's what you get when the anime is pretty episodic, so you don't get much time with the other characters outside of the arcs they're in. But even the lack of time we spend with these characters, they at least have interesting personalities and play a pretty good dynamic in the arcs they're in. The Witch and the Beast is an incredibly well written but pretty dark story. This anime has handled the story quite well so far, and it has been quite enjoyable. If you're looking for a darker series that has some pretty good comedy in it alongside its darkness, then I actually recommend giving this anime a shot because it is pretty damn good.